It's time for Truth, a ministry of Truth Family Bible Church in Middleton, Idaho. It's Time for Truth exists to glorify God through the edification of his saints in our local church and for the benefit of the church around the world. I'm your host, Pastor Danny Steinmeier. All right. Well, good day to you, wherever you may be, whenever you may be listening. Thanks for making us part of your day. The podcast is back and better than ever. And we're going to have a fun time this evening as we are recording in the evening. But we are going to have a wonderful conversation. Pastor Gabe Render from Stone Mountain Baptist Church in the co-pilot chair, as per usual, and then we have a guest. As if you looked at the title before clicking it, you will know that we have special guest interviewees in studio today. We have Mark and Sophie Ellison. So welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having us with you and your sidekick.
Yeah, sidekick.
If you say sidekick one more time, I'll just embrace it. Yeah, I'm going to have to eventually.
Yes, very much so. All right. And welcome, Sophie.
Thank you. This is fun.
Yeah, we're glad to have you in studio as well. And if you if you listen to the podcast, you're doing so because of Mark. So Mark is our I think everybody wants to just call their engineer Jamie. So you can be you're the engineer. Mark is the guy that makes it all happen. I'm not your tech guy, and Mark is the tech guy for the purposes of the podcast. So really appreciate all of his work. All this happens because of him. So we're really grateful for him, and we're looking forward to our conversation. And we'll just kind of get us started off here. So Ellison family, would you guys tell a little bit of the story of where you came from and then how you guys met, and just kind of the story of your background, your families, and where you came from? That'd be great.
Sure. So I grew up in Napa Valley. Most people confuse that with Nampa, but no, Napa Valley, California. One of them. We both are. Born in Burbank, so LA area,
Yep.
But grew up most of my life in Napa. Sophie and I met probably when I was around 6 or 7, and she's 3 years younger, so you can do the math there. And they got a house 1 block over from us. Do you know what year that was?
2009.
So I was 9 and you were 6, so we at least knew each other then.
Now I feel old. All right, keep going.
Yeah, born in 2000.
Whew. I have kids almost your age.
I was in college. Yeah.
Yeah. Raised in good Christian families and churches, and knew each other growing up. I would say we were childhood sweethearts, although we could never talk about it. But we both knew at some point.
Yeah, we both liked each other for as long as I can remember, but it was very much of a hush-hush, let's not awaken love before it's time. And he waited for a long time for me. And then when I was, I guess this is kind of jumping ahead, but
That's
he asked my dad if he could date me right before my 18th birthday. And my dad said, just you have to wait a little bit longer.
Wait till she graduates.
Which was another 5 months. So he had 5 more months to wait, and it's just, I think from your perspective, it was kind of a grueling time of waiting for me, but we always knew,
It's worth it.
Yeah, we always knew it was each other, so it's pretty cool. Not many people have that experience.
Yeah, it's a very almost ideal experience.
Yeah.
Actually, we'd like this for all of our kids to some degree. That's not always going to work out that way, but it is a beautiful thing, right? To have one love and to be able to bring that into full fruition in marriage, and that's a wonderful thing. And so you guys, again, raised in Christian homes and both homeschooled, if I remember right, correct?
All the way through.
Yeah. So you guys, families were friends, same church, so all that sort of stuff, or was there some differences there? Or?
Yeah, we were usually at the same church. It was a blessing to be raised in families that were very like-minded, and so when we got married, there weren't a lot of things to work out, which was a huge
Man.
blessing. We went through this book, 101 questions to ask before you get engaged. Yeah. And we went through it really quickly, which is very cool. And it's it's a special blessing. And I know it's hard, especially politically, with young men going in one direction, young women going in the other direction. It would be so hard to find a wife now, and it would have been back then if God had not put Sophie in my path through most of my growing up.
Yeah, no, and that's man. I'm jealous for my kids for that sort of thing, right? I think that, and we think about the times that we live in, just as you brought up, Mark, the challenge it is now in the world that we live in, and that is a wonderful picture of being able to work out and have so much like-mindedness, because it's not always it doesn't have to always be that way. And I mean, I had a conversation with my son even recently, just the idea of, hey, as you get to know people and develop some relationships and friendships in the places in which you're at college, for instance, it's not always going to be ideal, but you're going to have to potentially, lead someone and have conversations with someone to persuade to where you're at in order to be a reasonable candidate for marriage. And so in the world in which we live in, and that's the evangelical world. I mean, it's not just even so simple to say two people who would profess Christ. There's significant differences that even come along in in different churches, and so to have families with like-mindedness, to have educational like-mindedness, all those types of things, just really is a blessing. So that's something to be really thankful for, right?
Well, and I'm just struck by how much what you just described is almost exactly what we talked about, like in our courting episode, as far as what should be normative. And really what kind of hit me when I was just listening to you guys talk is like, that used to be just normal. And so what you've experienced is actually just kind of how we're designed to be in a lot of ways. So I'm really just encouraged to hear that God was gracious to you guys in that way, and that's a good example for you to set for other young people, and for those of us that have kids that are approaching that age. That's exactly what we're trying to build with our community, with our church, partnership. And I can, I've got tons of toddlers in my church, but 10 years, 15 years from now, okay, to be clear, we're going to be moving more into all these teenagers in our churches, and we're going to see this. Hopefully, it's become more of a normal practice between our families.
Yeah, we want to see that. Built. Okay, so we kind of moved to around the time of beginning your guys' relationship together, and kind of what was the time frame of that? Because as I recall, you ended up leaving and you left her behind, Mark. And so how did all this kind of go? And what was your thought process? What was happening during these times? Tell me more.
I wasn't the head yet, Pastor Danny.
I know.
Yeah, so I went to community college starting, I think, 2018. Tried to save some money there. And then I started going to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo for business. And then 2020.
The acronym is SLOW.
Yeah, San Luis Obispo. Yep, slow. So then the whole pandemic happened in 2020, and Cal Poly was all online, which was quite a bummer because it's a beautiful campus and actually good classes and professors down there from what I heard and what I experienced online. And they said a few months in that you have to get the quote-unquote vaccine to come onto campus, and I didn't want to fight them about that with religious or medical exemption or anything. Didn't want to play that game. So found Boise State. I was already interested in Idaho before all that went down. Found Boise State, and they were not requiring that. So applied, had 6 months off, which I just worked, doing mobile car detailing, had a little car detailing business, and then got engaged in December, moved a week or two later to Idaho, and then got married about 6 months later.
So a large part of or most of your engagement was you being here and her being there. Is that
right?
Is that accurate? Yeah. So just had to go establish some roots and then call her home, right, and bring her along. So
Yep.
that's great. Actually, I wanted to hear a little bit more from you, Mark, and then I'll turn it back to Sophie as well. You mentioned your car detailing business. As a young man, you were fairly entrepreneurial from the beginning, were you not? Didn't you have a number of different businesses or things that you were building and working on? Could you kind of talk about that and how that worked out for you while you were growing up?
Yeah, I was pretty weird, and I have
The good kind.
I have a short attention span with projects. So I was into a lot of things, which means I learned a lot of things, but was a jack of all trades, many trades, and master of none. I'm trying to change that, trying to be a more focused individual. But for example, I had the car detailing business. That started because I was a groundskeeper, and I also detailed the car at a bed and breakfast in Napa. And then, well, I had a Honda Civic, and I could get a pressure washer and a vacuum, an extension cord and hose, and go around Napa and detail cars. So that turned into a decent side hustle. Also had a little 3D printing business, and at some point I was raising crickets and making chapstick, and it was like, yeah. So
You were into bees
weird
early
stuff
too, weren't you?
Yeah, we had chickens and bees. That wasn't too much of a business.
Okay.
You remember anything else I was into?
Sourdough.
Oh yeah, I made some pretty good sourdough back in the day. So yeah, but like I said, I never got really good at something before I was enthralled with the next thing. Oh, like building electric longboards that could go 48 miles an hour. So
Electric, like skateboard longboards?
Yeah.
What we're talking about? Interesting.
3D printing.
Yeah, I
you
mentioned that.
Mentioned
Oh,
that.
yep.
48 miles per hour on a longboard sounds pretty insane.
Yeah.
Don't fall.
Yeah.
Don't fall.
It's like a luge, but requiring balance.
Well, and Sophie, what were some of your interests as you were growing up? And these are valuable things to learn and to kind of hear. We want even our young people to listen to these podcasts to spark their imagination and interest in various things. I think trying different things is valuable, and just learning from other people. I think that's an important aspect of life and of parenting and of growing up. And so what was growing up for you like? What were some of the things that you were interested in, and what was your ambitions, and what was going through your mind and in your life during those days?
Yeah, so growing up, I come from a long line of, my mom was a labor and delivery nurse, and so I kind of latched onto that, and I was like, that's what I want to do. So I was thinking nursing school, and I ended up going to community college, and I got my degree in health sciences, my associates, and then I graduated from college right before we got married. And I realized, I actually don't want to work in a hospital. And then I was thinking, well, I love birth, so maybe midwifery school. But then the Lord closed that door too, because I realized I don't want to go to college at all. I actually just want to be a wife. And He showed me a birth doula. And so then I started thinking, well, when I get married, that's something that I can kind of build up and build down based on the season of life I'm in. So birth has always been a huge interest of mine, and just learning how to help other moms and families as they enter that season of life. And I feel like I've always been a little bit of caretaker. I would walk dogs during high school. That was my job, and babysitting, those type of things where I wasn't clocking in and clocking out, but I was still able to make money while helping people. So those are the type of things that I would encourage young women to pursue now, of just little things that you can do while still pursuing, whether it's your school or your family life. So those were really fun times in my life that I think back on, of taking care of people's dogs and babies,
Yeah, that's great.
while going to school, that I didn't even end up using my degree, but it's okay.
We'll use it with our family.
Yeah. So, and then now, last year, I had the privilege of assisting 7 births, which was really cool. I learned a lot from the different experiences. I saw a wide range of births, whether it was home birth or hospital birth, births that went really well, births that were more difficult, and most of them being God-honoring families who are trusting Him along the way, and me just being there to support them. So that's been really cool.
That's awesome. And what would be the definition of a doula? What are some of the things that you do in that role?
Yeah.
There's a little bit of a title there.
Yeah.
Well, what is that? What is that?
Yeah, so doula literally means woman who serves. So when applied to the birth scene, it's physical support, mental support. I would say spiritual support too, because I think birth is spiritual. And that's practically just helping parents know what's happening. It's a huge life event, and sometimes it can come with complications, confusion about what's happening. So having someone there to carry you through it and just be another set of hands and someone who will pray for you, help you with different positions or ways that we can keep things moving. It's been really cool to hear from people how, they'll say things like, I don't know how I would have done it without you. And that's just so fulfilling to me.
Yeah.
And just always such a beautiful experience. So, yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. And so then, so you moved to Idaho in what year was that? And then kind of what took place from there? So you, when you were at Boise State, you came to Idaho, you got married, came to Idaho, and talk a little bit more about just sort of where you kind of went from there, some of the thoughts and times that were happening in your life, coming to TFBC, all those kinds of things. Kind of walk us through a little bit of your growth and your path.
Yeah, to back up a little bit, back in 2017, my dad's friend was over at our house and he saw that I was into 3D printing and he said, oh, we could maybe use that at our business, pressure switch manufacturing company. And he said, if you ever want an internship, email me. And so parents encouraged me to email him, and that started a relationship, internships, and then a part-time job, now a full-time job. Full-time job, now I'm 1099. That's a recent development. So it was a weird project that God used to open a door, a career path. So 2022 is when we moved up, and what helped us move up, one of the things was that I had a job up here because that company, Wasco, was expanding from Central Coast, California to Emmett, Idaho, of all places, because it was cheaper at the time, 2019, when they expanded up here. So I helped with that expansion, building of buildings and the marketing surrounding that. What was the rest of the question?
Yeah, just more of the path that you've walked and the interests that have come your way, coming to TFBC, all that kind of stuff. The beginning of your family and kind of the big story, Mark. The big story, all the positives, all the struggles. What are some of the things that you've learned? All those kind of things along the way to bring you here.
And your undying love for the good old Valley of Emmett.
Oh yeah, I do love Emmett. It's in it's
a
wonderful
beautiful view
location.
coming over that hill.
Yeah, it feels secluded, but it's really not that far if you need to get to the more densely populated areas. 2022 came up. I was dealing with some health issues. This is going to get into Granddad Farms. Dealing with some health issues, trying to figure those out before I got married, and made some progress there. Then eventually found a lot more progress with having a professional home cook and helping me with my diet. I was going to functional medicine doctors, and a lot of it came down to what I was eating. And I think that's the case for a lot of people with digestive issues. And the doctors encouraged me to find better food, eat more animal products, animal protein, fats, things like that, more whole foods, not the store, but the type of food, the category. And so we're thinking, well, how do we do that? Because that's really expensive. So yeah, we can buy bulk beef, and that does save us some money there. But growing up, we farmed as much as we could with 6 chickens and a few beehives and gardens. So I did have a little bit of background in micro farming, I guess you'd call it. And we followed a gentleman who's in Virginia, Shenandoah Valley, Virginia, named Joel Salatin. And he's a good Christian man. And
The Lunatic Farmer.
The Lunatic Farmer. Yeah, there's a great documentary with Canon Plus that I would recommend to everyone if you're interested in that. And so he put out some books. He has quite a number of books and videos, and I actually got to meet him up in Coeur d'Alene a few years ago. And so we read a book about raising poultry on pasture. Of course, we didn't have pasture. We were living in an apartment. And then we moved up to Emmett as we were setting up the system. And the system was to raise poultry on my employer's vacant lot in Emmett. It was a couple miles away from where we're going to be living in Emmett. And so we ordered chicks and we started our poultry production. The idea was to obviously raise enough for ourselves for the year and then sell some to offset the cost. And it went well, except for a dog attack, which killed or injured 73 we had to put down. But it went really well. Really good product, flavorful, moist, and something
Nice.
we could trust, knowing everything that goes into it, and raising them from chick all the way to bagged whole chicken in the freezer. So that's the start of Granddad Farms there, and that's also part of why we moved up to Emmett, is to be closer to Wasco, and then we could use that piece of property that he was gracious to let us use. So that's how Granddad Farms kicked off.
Yeah, great. And then tell us about the name Granddad Farms and just some of your thinking about why this farming has been important to you, and where do you see it for the future, and all those kind of things. And we'll keep pulling it apart. So
Mark's idea was Granddad Farms, and his dad is granddad to our son Clyde and his cousins. And I don't really know.
It was going to be Grandma's Chicken because my grandma used to get
Nice.
Foster Farms chicken in bulk in LA and then sell it out of her garage.
Oh, wow.
She's like a little distributor, which is admirable. And that's one of the ways she provided chicken for her family. And Grandma did not want it to be called Grandma's Chicken. So
I like Granddad Farms better. I think it suits us, and it feels like kind of like a little more patriarchal and something. Mark maybe will be granddad one day, and maybe Clyde will be granddad one day, so it feels like something we could pass along, and I like it.
yeah, from a marketing standpoint, it's fairly easy to spell.
People remember, so.
Yeah.
Those things are important, and you have a great logo.
And we
I'm
could
looking
also-
at it right now.
Yes.
It's pretty legit.
We could also, thank you, also get the domain name. Like that was a key consideration.
Hey, that's important.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And so, what does talk a little bit as well about the connection that you have with your family moving up with your folks, and just kind of the value of that, and what that's done as you guys have kind of partnered together, and as you help each other out, and talk a little bit more about that, because I think that's really valuable and important. And we're a multi-generational church. We value those sort of things. I think you have some of those same values. What does that mean to you to have your parents local, but also participating with you?
Yeah, Granddad Farms is really a family farm. If we had enough mics, it would be awesome to have them here too, because they're a huge part of this. We raise most of the food and do most of the production on my parents' place. They have a little warehouse there and a few acres of pasture, and my dad helps me out immensely, and my mom as well. And so it really is a family business, and it is comforting and is grounding having family backing us up, because starting a business, there are ups and downs.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have them there. And from a family perspective, especially with Clyde, it's a huge blessing to have them around, obviously for practical reasons, but Clyde's is able to have more disciplers than just Sophie and I, and learn from older Christians and have a multi-generational way of being raised up. So it's really wonderful to have them around. We don't know how long that will be. We'd love to get some more property and expand one day, but everyone knows how the real estate market is.
Yeah, very good. All right, so what does Granddad Farms do? What are some of the signature things about your farm, the way you farm? What are your products, and where can people find you, and so forth?
So we focus on pasture-raised protein and also animal feed. So we have pasture or poultry operations. We raise chickens, meat chickens called broilers, and we also have laying hens, which are on pasture. We also do pasture pork and pasture pigs. We have registered Idaho pasture pigs, which have been a blast. Obviously, challenges with breeding animals. But yeah, focus on pigs, poultry, and animal feed. So we have a line of non-GMO, corn-free, soy-free feed, and then we're also working on a feed that checks all those boxes, but is also certified organic and seed oil free. So a healthier fat, which right now is coconut oil, is going into it, and that makes the end product of the poultry more nutritious, healthier fat.
Is coconut a seed?
So
Is it a fruit? Mm-hmm. So the oil wouldn't be a seed oil, I guess. Huh?
yeah, it's a fruit oil.
It's a fruit oil. Okay.
Like
Yeah.
olive oil is a fruit oil.
Yeah, there you go.
I
Yeah,
like
I just had a
or,
thought.
or
going through my mind,
avocado
like,
oil.
Yep,
yeah,
palm
something
oil
like that.
even,
Yeah.
but not palm kernel oil.
Which unfortunately isn't way too much stuff. But anyway.
Yeah. So those are the main products we do. We have website granddadfarms.com where you can Google and find us. But our focus is producing food and helping people produce food that they can feel good eating. You want to know what goes into it. We're working on our organic certification for some of our products, and that's a decent standard. There's a lot of regulations surrounding it, which is just interesting to navigate as a right winger. But it's a decent standard. It requires cleaner inputs, but it's still good to know where your food comes from. It's good for all of us, if possible, to know where our food comes from, and for those who get our feed, it's good to know who's making the food that your animals are eating, because you are what you eat eats.
So when it comes to
are
things
what
like
you eat eats.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yes. I got that.
I was just going to ask about scalability. A lot of, hobby farms or micro farms, right? That's always the challenge, is that as you grow, you get to a point where it's very difficult to maintain those standards and still be profitable without compromising quality. So do you have, you talked about expanding with your family. Do you have thoughts about, multiplying it on multiple smaller scale efforts, or what are your thoughts as you seek to grow? I mean, is this something that you hope will be your full-time employment at some point, or do you see it more as just a family side hustle forever and all eternity for the health of your grandchildren? I mean, all admirable things.
Lord willing, it will be a full-time endeavor. My goal is to have at least one of my two, or hopefully both of my part-time employees become full-time. I'm able to make money from the marketing job, so I don't need income from the farm right now. And so I'd like to get them established and paid well as, obviously, legal citizens of America. I could save a lot of money if I was hiring illegals, like
Idaho
at least one.
dairyman, hardest hit. Keep going.
Yep, especially one of our legislators. So, yeah, I would like to expand, and we are expanding. Last April, we got to meet the owners of St. John's Organic Farm. It's a much larger, obviously, organic farm.
I've been there.
Cool.
Yeah, they did a homeschool tour a couple years ago. We went
Awesome.
out there.
They're
And
awesome.
they have very good beef.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, and that comes from the really good pastures they have.
Yep.
And so the owners, Peter and Susan Dill, are really sweet friends of ours now. We've gotten close with, and they've trusted us to bring about 300 laying hens onto their property. And so we're going to use what are called chicken tractors, which are like mobile
Yeah.
chicken coops. I've recently built with help of Josiah. Shout out to Josiah from TFBC and a number of other people that we know. Built two of these large 16 by 24 foot chicken tractors, and they're going to be towed around behind the cows. So they'll be scratching apart the cow patties. They'll be eating the fly larvae, keeping down the fly load out there, getting that protein, spreading the manure. It's going to be a glorious system out there, I think. And so they've been really gracious to host us out there. And so I think that's a good opportunity to test our scalability. Modularity is something that I think about with chicken tractors and brooders and crates and transportation and all of that. So yeah, we definitely do hope to grow, and it has been going well so far. So that's the idea. We've only been doing this for about 3 years, so we'll give it at least 5 and reevaluate.
Yeah, you've learned a lot along the way, and have come a long ways. It's been fun to track that with you, and then tell us a little bit about how you came to TFBC and kind of the start of that. And you're one of our deacons, and so maybe talk a little bit about what's important to you about TFBC and having a home church that you guys are a wonderful part of.
Yeah, so it was actually my dad who found out about you guys through the master's seminary alumni list, and he said, "Oh, Mark, you should go check that out." So went and checked that out. I think it was February of 2022, and have been going there since. What made us stay? Well, there's a number of things. The family integration is huge. Having families be able to worship together.
Was it a new thing for you to sort of discover it, but you kind of came to understand it and appreciate it? Was it something you were looking for, or something that you had in your background? How did that
It's actually
strike you?
how my family was raised,
Okay.
in churches that were not family integrated.
Okay.
So we were the weird kids that were not in Sunday school.
Why are
Okay.
you in here?
Yeah.
Not like you're part of the church.
You're not big enough.
Yeah, right.
It's like, oh,
We have a place
I
for
can
them,
re-
right?
Man, that drove me nuts years ago. And anyway, yeah,
I can
not
s-
my favorite experience in churches.
So it felt like home, and I appreciated the traditional nature of the type of liturgy we have, and especially the hymn and psalm singing. And I think a huge part for me was the guys in the church. They were strong. They were masculine men, and they were bought in to the whole thing, to their families, to the church, and to business, and then for some of them, politics as well. So those are some things that really attracted me to TFBC, and then getting to know folks even more, and helping TFBC in the ways that we can along the way was a great experience. What about you, Sophie?
Yeah, tell us about what this was. Mark had kind of found the church before you had come, and so what was it like for you coming to TFBC, and how has that been for you building relationships, and what has it been like for you?
Well, I will say it was nice not having to be a part of the church shopping experience.
Right.
And he pretty much said, "This is where we're going," and that took a big burden off of me. But from the beginning, it felt really right, and I did have to trust that I'm going to Idaho. I don't know anybody, but my future husband is there, and he has a church for me, and it ended up being such a blessing, and I've grown more than I ever have in my walk since being at Truth Family. The women are just so aspirational and real, and I'm learning a lot. The family integration was huge. I grew up going to Awana and VBS, and all those things aren't inherently bad, but I just see the value in having our kids with us, and the hymns, just very different experience than I had growing up, but just the size of the church, I think, contributes that too, of how everybody knows everybody, and if somebody is not there on Sunday, they will be getting a text from someone. If I'm not there on Sunday, at least 3 friends text me saying they
That's a
miss
selling
me.
point. I mean, I know some people might be intimidated.
Yeah.
But that's a selling point.
That is very unique, though. I know that for a lot of people, they could leave the church and no one would even know that they were gone. So it's just been really cool.
Yeah, as you guys already know, many churches model their programs after public school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we, like our name suggests, maybe you need to add it to yours, Stone Mountain Family, but it's getting too long. It
It's
is
long
more
enough
like a
as it is.
family.
Yeah.
It is a spiritual family, and we act like it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was something that when we were first getting started, and when I was in seminary, I took a church planting class, and one of the things that you have to do is kind of evaluate and study other church plants. And one church plant that I was aware of was Vody Baucham's, and it was Grace Family Baptist Church in Spring, Texas. And our bulletin even is somewhat not a copy, but it's inspired by their bulletin. They used to have their bulletin on their website, and I just downloaded a couple of PDFs from it, and kind of using that for my project and looking at stuff. And so just that aspect of a family, a multi-generational concept of life in the church and of aspiration towards generations worshiping together, and then having children in the worship together, not being discipled to. That's one of the things that was big for my dad. Was one of the things that he noticed was that a lot of youth groups they had their separate, different music. They had their own kind of different style and liturgy, and then what big church, the adult church, it was maybe more traditional and more hymns or whatever else. And what he noticed was that the youth group was discipling the children, the youth, to reject what was being done in big church, like where we're doing two different things. And there's something to
and they're the big church now.
And they're the big church now.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's why.
yes.
That's
So
why the modern church looks like it does, because it's just yesterday's youth ministry.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
And they brought the smoke machines.
Right. And so
it's just VBS on Sunday mornings now.
Right.
That's all it
True.
is.
That's so
Whole
true.
mind blown, eyes opened.
and that's whereas we recognize the value of having our children participate and be disciplined and discipled into what we are doing, into the worship and the philosophy of ministry of the church. And so that's a beautiful thing and a good thing. And what it does, for those of you who maybe aren't familiar, it is a more engaged process than what a lot of churches offer, because a lot of churches want you to know, don't worry, we have childcare for you. We have free babysitting for you. So Sunday is where you can be separated from your children, and that's not the way it works at our church, right? So it's not a day off. It's not me time. It's actually discipleship time, where you're actually coming to church and you're going to be parenting there, and that's not what a lot of people or what a lot of the modern church has come to value. But these are older paths, right? These are older ways of understanding how the church used to be and how it used to function. And like you said, Mark, a lot of the modern public school model is the way in which we separate everybody by age group, which is the only place that we do that is school, public school, and then now the church. And we've recognized the value of the multi-generational discipleship that has a maturing effect, where we have young people have relationships with older people in terms of being able to speak to them and shake hands and serve and be able to look adults in the eye and say hello and to respond when spoken to. These are things that parents should be wanting for their children to be able to grow up and to mature. And so these are just slow, incremental, the good kind, the slow incremental steps of discipleship and parenting. And as young kids grow up in the life of the church, we think that this pays off in the long term. And so that's one of the philosophical underpinnings of what we do as a church. And I appreciate that you're one that recognizes that and has bought into that. So that's really good.
Well, and it negates the need to transition, quote unquote, to big church, if you will. Like you're basically teaching your children to love church, to love the tradition, to love the people. There's no transition. I mean, one of my favorite things, as off key as it may be at times, is when we sing certain well-known hymns or things that we sing frequently. I love hearing like the 4-year-olds and the 5-year-olds just like screaming at the top of their lungs. Basically, it's beautiful and it's great, and it does come with challenges. I mean, we encourage parents likewise to use time to actually not only train their children to sit, right, not to be distracted with stuff. I mean, obviously kids are at various stages of development. You may need different things to assist them along the way, but generally speaking, the goal is that they actually are going to sit and learn and listen.
That's right.
If they can sit quiet through a movie, they can sit quiet through whatever. Like it's really just there's no reason why our children can't actually participate. And so one thing that we do, and I know you guys do likewise, is, we encourage the fathers, like, be narrating what's happening. If your children are fussy, stop and explain what's happening in the service. Like just, I see dads when communion's going by and they've got little toddlers and they're explaining this is what the bread is and this is what the cup is and this is what we're doing. There's constant discipleship, like you said, happening. And that raises children up then to not only understand what church is, but to actually be part of the church. Even if we're Baptists that don't commune until baptism and profession of faith and things like that, the children still are participating in the active worship. They're actual members of the church, even if we don't have family in our name. It's the same idea, and that's what I've discovered as I've researched that, and as we've made that one of our own distinctives at our church is that that's just normal in all of church history until like 60 years ago, 75 years ago. It really was a sexual revolution, postmodern invention to have this sort of program-based, segregation-based ministry model, and it really has been extremely disruptive. But it makes sense when you think about the foundations flowing from the destruction of the family unit and the head of household role, and all of that is tied together. And a lot of people in the modern evangelical movement just don't see the connection. So it's really encouraging to hear young people like yourselves that see the value in it, that want to build things, follow old paths, and do really what Christians have done for generations. It's what we were built for. It's what we were made for. And being close to the land, I think, is just one extension of that. And so it's really encouraging to hear from you guys how you're seeking to embody all those things for your children and for your future generations.
I'll tell a little story that I want it to be paradigmatic for really our all of our church family.
That was a good word.
For you,
I felt really smart.
That was a 50-cent word right there.
Master's University right there.
Yeah,
Seminary, sorry.
Both. I was both.
Oh,
yeah,
under and over. Okay.
That's right. And I want this for the adults, but I want it for our children too. When we moved up from California and came from Grace Community Church, and I was candidating at a small country church. And Luke, at the time when we moved here, was 5 years old. And we were at this church and for the short term, and there was an interim pastor who was we'll put scare quotes around preacher. He was preaching. We'll put quotes around that. And so here's this 5-year-old we've been family integrating as well. He's sitting in service with us, so listening to John MacArthur preach and listening to the organ and the choir and the orchestra and all this stuff. And so this has been normal for him. So now we are in this country church, and we get in the car on our way home, and from the back seat, my 5-year-old says, "So why did the preacher just tell stories?"
Out of the mouth of babes.
Out of the mouth of babes came a recognition that one thing is not like the other. Now, while we want you and Clyde to forever be at TFBC and your generations to be all together, we know that at times people will leave our church. We know that that people will move away for various reasons. And we actually want this to be like as we raise our children to understand what church is, to know what singing is, what singing in the church is, what preaching is, what communion looks like, all that type of stuff. That whenever someone goes to another church and it doesn't measure up, we want that to be a measure of, hey, wait a minute. What am I? And so we long for something better, and whether they participate in it because they become deacons and elders, or whether they become pastors themselves, or whether they're just looking for another church. They're looking for churches that share a similar philosophy of ministry, share a doctrinal way of believing and teaching. And so anyway, those things I think are valuable overall. But let's get back to talking with you guys a little bit more. Mark and Sophie, you kind of share maybe individually if you like. Look, you guys are interested and you care about being a Christian nation. You guys care about the future that your son is being raised into, and as he grows up. What are some of your thoughts, your concerns? What are some of the values and the things that are important to you as you think about living in a Christian nation and pursuing those things?
Well,
big question.
Yeah, that is a huge question.
Not loaded at all.
No.
Yeah.
Where
So,
to start?
Christian nation, it should be one that distinctly identifies Christ as King. And I understand many of the founders were Christian, not all of them were, and we had a lot of states that had state churches that were good Protestant denominations. But we need, and they did a great job overall, and who am I to critique them, although I may just do that. But
They didn't have the foresight that we would ever be this, I don't think. But go
yeah,
ahead.
they probably didn't know that we would import so many Indians and everyone else and just give the country away. But it needs to be so as far as Christian nationalism goes, there's the people, which is the nation, but then what we're talking about is the civil authority. And so that's kind of two different conversations there. And how they interact is there is a bottom-up approach because we are on paper, a constitutional republic, but then there's also the law, which should come from God's moral code, and be enforced by the civil servant, and that is a tutor to the people. So there's no such thing.
A restraint and a teacher, right?
Right. There's no such thing as a morally neutral government. There's one.
Amen.
This is very black and white. There is a Christian, there's a God-honoring government, and then there is a variety of other types that are not. So yeah, we need laws, and we need laws enforced. We have many good laws on the books. Of course, there are some that are not, and some court cases that should be overturned as we all know about. But we need just laws, and those need to be enforced as well. And those are two separate issues. We need strong Christian male leadership, and I think I can maybe what you're getting to is segueing into Republican politics. We live in a state that is a bastion of freedom, and it is a privilege to be able to come here from California.
People's Republic of California, yeah.
Yeah, which People's Republic of Congo and the rest of the world.
Yeah.
And it's a privilege to be able to come here. And coming from California, we can see how bad things can get. Not the worst they can get, but that they can get worse. Because I know that God's common grace still extends to California, and it's not as bad as it could be.
It's not utterly depraved.
Yeah. And so I am keeping my ear to the ground and helping out in ways that I can in the local Republican Party. And we need more Christians in government. And so I think that most Christians consider politics icky. And, Trump uses the word swamp, and that's a pretty good term, and deep state and all that. I think that's true. I think those are appropriate terms. And I think that is large part because Christians have given the civil sphere over to the pagans.
Yeah, we've abdicated our responsibility.
And it's really easy. I say this to folks when I tell them I'm, listening on the political sphere and going to these meetings and learning and helping out. It is the way it is, mostly because Christians have gotten out of it, and it's easy to complain about it.
Yeah.
It's easy to be, what do they call it, an armchair quarterback or something like that, and complain online and complain in person and be black-pilled, which is really not a Christian stance. Black-pill to be depressed about things. That's like
Pessimistic.
Yeah, pessimistic. Yeah, that's not a Christian virtue. It's okay to be realistic, but. It's easy to complain about the way things are going, even as we see in cities like Boise and Nampa with the Pride Fest and in other areas of our state. But it's better to try and lose, I think, temporarily. I think we will win in the end. I lean towards Post Mill, but it's better to try and lose temporarily than not try at all. So that's why I'm helping out in different ways that I can and supporting guys in our church like Senator Shippey, who was trying to do justice in the state capitol as a senator.
Yeah, that's really good. I actually was messaging with Senator Shippey and a few people prior to recording this, and that exact conversation is it was what just came up. We were talking about the fact that even if we fail, that there's an encouragement in Brandon shared a passage from Corinthians about like giving thanks amongst the brethren for the works of the saints, and just the idea of wanting to express gratitude to people who are pursuing righteous ends in the Senate. And so this is in the context of supporting his bill and co-sponsors and things like that. But ultimately speaking, this idea that even if we try and fail, we should not grow weary in doing good, but that we know that in due time we will see a harvest reaped. And that might not be in our lifetime, to your point. It could be a long-term thing where it's your son taking up the mantle. But the seeds that we plant today are so meaningful in the future. And that doesn't mean that we should sit back and be pessimistic today. It means we can still take action where we can take action. And so I really appreciate that framework and that attitude of, even if I fail, like, God has given me a talent. I'm not going to bury it in the dirt. I'm going to go do something with it, invest it wisely, and seek to grow it as best I can. And that's what faithfulness looks like as a Christian. And so I'm encouraged to hear you say that.
Yeah, and I'm trying to have I've learned it from guys like you and other guys at our church, to have a generational mindset that my generation, your generation, we may not be able to get that much done. But if we can lay a foundation for our kids and grandkids and great-grandkids to improve upon in many areas, whether that's civil or business, and of course family and church, then that's absolutely what we're called to do. Like leaving an inheritance, of course that is training them in the faith, but I think it's so much more than that.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, and I appreciate that about you, that you have a sense of not just complaining about it, not just being concerned about it, but to actually see what you can do about it, and your service to the church as a deacon, your service to your country as one who's involved in helping and learning and participating in the process, not just being just separated and kind of withdrawing yourself, being like, oh, it's a lost cause or anything like that. You're doing your part. You're doing your part in terms of food. You're doing your part in terms of business and thinking entrepreneurially and thinking about your son and future and connected with your parents. I mean, there's a lot of things that are respectable about your family and where the Lord has brought you, and that's just something to just kind of going back to the beginning. There's a lot of things you guys haven't had to fight over and wrestle over, because now you guys have so much going for you, even at a young age as you guys are, to be able to grow and reach for higher heights, and for your son and future children to stand on your shoulders and not fight all the restarting over of all the different battles that many people have to. And so it's just a beautiful picture of God's working in your lives, and that's what we want to. That's why I want to interview you, because we want other people to get to know you. So we've got newer people coming to our church. There's as well as just giving people the opportunity to hear and to be thankful for what God is doing in you. Look, we're not celebrity driven. We are recognizing that God is at work in the small churches in our state, in our country, and He's at work in the families and the lives of individuals who He has loved by His grace and has brought into the local church to be faithful and to be useful and to be servants. And so really appreciate this opportunity to talk to you, and want to give Sophie another just opportunity as well when it comes to you, as you think about supporting your husband and some of the ways that you encourage him and participate. What are some of the things that you think about and that you value as being part of the farm and being part of our church, and thinking about all the things that he's involved in? How do you kind of think through that, and what's important to you as well?
To be clear, you weren't referring to her as the farm is in having kids, right? Just want to make sure we're on the same page.
Well, I definitely have a supporting role in all of this. Mark is the most ambitious person I've ever met, and it feels like there's constantly something new that we're going after and he's doing, and I'm just trying to keep up with him. A lot of what I do, though, for him is just practical, making him breakfast, making him lunch, like talking with him about what's going on and giving advice where I can, but a lot of that is just praying for him too and raising his son. I don't know, what what would you say that my role in all of this is?
Well, it's kind of a corny term, but I know that you are able to supercharge what I'm doing because you're able to take care of so many things without me asking, and then also just be that support behind me. A lot of it is not glamorous tasks, like you said, like taking care of meals and being responsible for Clyde in many ways. But that takes things off my plate. And so I'm able to chase after things with the business and help as a deacon and do politics and all the things like that.
And I love helping out where I can. I remember being 35 weeks pregnant, feeding the pigs. Like anywhere I can jump in is really fun for me too.
Yeah, you're a part of it, right?
Yes,
like it's not
for
that
sure.
it's not just distant and you just stay in the kitchen, right?
Yeah.
But there's all of those aspects of being a support, being a helpmate to your husband, and as you guys love each other and raise your family together on the farm, it's a full life, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Very, very full and beautiful.
Yeah, trying to have a family economy. I think that's probably a historic term, but I think Moscow has been good with that. And she has products that are on her website. She makes tea and elderberry syrup and renders pig fat, which smells decent unless it's smelling like that for days on end. But
Get tired of it.
There's absolutely a family economy, and we both earn money. She does her.
It's Proverbs 31 in action.
Absolutely. Real estate mogul. I'm kidding.
But no, I mean, when the Christian household is operating like it's supposed to, it frees each person up to do what they're called by God, by their nature to do. And that's really how we're designed. And there might be different particular applications in a given household. Obviously, with the agricultural investment in your household, that's a more practical, perhaps, outflowing of that. But many wives may do that by selling bread at the local market, or maybe they just have eggs that they put out on a roadside stand. I mean, there's so many ways that all of our wives, I think, contribute to our homes and provide for us. And if nothing else, like you already hit, I mean, all of us would attest to as Christian men that if our wives weren't managing the homes, I mean, like, we can't do what we're called to do as men without that firm foundation. I can trust my wife that even though I'm overseeing everything and I'm a part of everything, I don't have to think about so many different things in our home, whether it be the general flow of education in the home or whatever it may be, because I know that my wife's executing on those things and we talk about them regularly and we're one in that. And so it's beautiful because, as I'm sure Danny can say, as pastors, our minds are in like 1,000 places all at once, and it's hard for us sometimes to just wrap our mind around what I need to focus on right this second. And that same, I think, of every husband. So it's always encouraging for me to hear young wives and mothers that are seeing that not as some burden that makes you less, but actually as a way that you genuinely bless your home and your husband.
And I will say, at first, when we first got married, it was difficult for me to not feel like I was not doing enough, or I really struggled with not having a job and not feel. I came from a girl boss culture where me choosing to stay home was hard at first, and then over almost 4 years of marriage now, I found ways to be productive, but that was a choice that I had to make, not to just sit back and be passive, but find those things where I can bring value to our family and to our business. Having a baby helps with that too, to keep you busy.
For sure.
But it's been
Future labor.
Yeah, I've grown so much. I remember really struggling at the beginning, but it took me kind of kicking into gear and just
That's awesome.
doing it.
He's about 1.5, and he's currently helping out. So he's able to bring over ingredients for mixing feed. But we live in a hyper-feminist culture, and so not at our church, but at other places and other circles, people ask Sophie, what do you do? Like, what's your job? And
That was hard for me.
Where do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Yeah. And, I'm stay at home. And they go, oh, nice.
Yeah.
And it's seen as a very low value position. But Pastor Gabe was pretty much touching on patriarchy, which means father rule. And it's not that the male head makes all the decisions. He can delegate, and that is a wonderful thing. That's a beautiful
It's real
system.
authority. Yeah.
So I'm able to delegate and trust Sophie to do so many things, and know that they're gonna be taken care of. And yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful design that God has made that as you function according to the way that God has ordered things, there's just peace and there's joy, there's happiness, and there's that division of labor in the household, and there's that support and that mutual love and care for one another. I grew up. I remember it definitely was not original with my dad. I don't know what and it might not be the phrase exactly right, but behind every successful man is a woman. And there is that sense of that support. I mean, like you were just saying that earlier. Without our wives, we're probably a mess. And so
I'd be very disorganized.
there's a beautiful civilizing aspect to a husband and wife relationship wherein now we're really running in the direction and in the ways that God intends for us. And it's a beautiful picture, of course, of Christ and the church and the way in which we care and love for each other, and we are productive for the sake of honoring and glorifying Him.
And I'd encourage you, sister, embrace the term homemaker, because really, like, the concept of stay-at-home wife or stay-at-home mom, I think has an unnecessary negative connotation that, you just stay.
I stay at home.
Stay. It feels very
don't
like
go out.
inactive, right? But homemaker, it's like you're building something, you're producing, and I think we need to think in that context when we greet people and talk about that, because bottom line is my wife is building something in our home for future generations that is much more productive, much busier, and much more fulfilling than a cubicle ever could be.
And we can even go. We can up that even more, and just be like, I have the greatest and most important job in the world. I get to raise an eternal soul.
Amen.
And for as my full-time job.
Yep.
And so what is it that you do? You sit in a cubicle? Oh, you're a wage slave for some other man. But at the same time, you have the privilege and the joy of really being one who is a leader in a productive household under the headship of your husband, making good things and enjoying the fruits of his labor, but also
instead of another man's household.
You get to participate in building your household, and we want to encourage all the homemakers out there to lean into that.
We appreciate
that
you.
good kind of pride. I talked about pride and humility recently, and there's a good kind of pride. That's that pride in delighting in what God made to be good, and to standing on it, to actually leaning into that in a positive way, to where we don't back down, where we're not shy. But in the zeitgeist of our current day, it's it's looked down upon to be that, and we got to push back to that and be like, actually, no, what's wrong with you?
Even godly Christian women have feminism just so deeply entrenched in them. I mean, I know so many Christian women, my wife included, that grew up Christian in solid homes. And still, it's like you don't realize how much that curse is still upon you until you're in marriage and you start thinking and working through these things. And it really is amazing the amount of propaganda that went into the sexual revolution to convince women that oppression is not sitting in a cubicle listening to a guy all week tell you what to do. That's not oppression, but somehow like loving your family at home and supporting and submitting to your husband is. And it's like that great G.K. Chesterton quote that all the women decided they were tired of taking doing what men told them to do, so they went out and became court stenographers. It's like, okay, so humorous idea of that. Well, you don't want to listen to what men say all day, so you go and you type what men say all day, and somehow that's fulfilling. And that's the irony of what we've created, is that somehow
We've bought a lie, right?
Yeah, and on top of that, we've created the need for dual income. We've destroyed our economy. We've created inflation. All we've done is increased, tax revenue and burdens. Like, it's just the entire system is built to be a self-defeating destruction zone. And I think that's why people of your generation find yourself in that challenge of, well, how do I even afford land? So it really is something where I feel like our generation and our children need to break that cycle. And I'm very encouraged to hear more and more people like yourselves thinking in that mindset, because it gives me hope that we will actually break that cycle.
Well, that's wonderful. Well, we really appreciate you guys coming in and being a part of the podcast. Mark's always a part of the podcast, but he's behind the microphone this time, and we're really grateful that you guys would come in and share with us. We think this is a blessing to all of our church family and all those who are outside who get to hear and appreciate what God has done for you and in you and is currently doing through you. And so we really appreciate you being here. But that's all the time that we have for Truth Today. Did you have something?
I was going to say, shameless plug for your. Do you have a website? What's your
Oh, he did.
distribution?
Granddadfarms.com, correct?
Yeah, and if you have chickens and would like to try our, I think is excellent chicken feed made with coconut oil. We're calling it coconut layer feed. You
Nice.
can use the code beta test, all caps. Maybe I'll put a link in the description.
Yeah, go
Little
for shameless plug.
little
Let's support your
self-serving.
business.
In the Treasure Valley, right?
Yeah, if you're in the Treasure
We're
Valley.
not going to ship that yet.
Yeah, what's your distribution model? I guess if people, is it
Yeah.
all through the website, or do
we
you go
do-
to local markets?
Right now it's all through website, but we will be at some markets this year. We do a weekly delivery route on Fridays, and people are also welcome to pick up. Obviously, there are folks at our church who get things from us, and we
Great.
bring it to church. So yeah, that code will enter you into the beta testing program, which I think is just about complete. So you'll be getting a 25% discount on pretty much a finished product. So love
Fantastic.
you to try it out if you have chickens.
Excellent. Well, yeah, thanks for catching me on that. And now that's all the time that we have for Truth Today. Thank you for joining us. And until next time, we hope that you will grow in your love and commitment to Christ and his church. As we are sanctified in the truth, God's word is truth.